You feel like your life is going to last a long time. And if I was to talk to my 26-year-old self, I would tell that kid that you don't have time. And you don't know when it's going to end. And so get out there and do the things you want to do. Get out there and get after them now. Don't wait another second. Take advantage of it. Get out there and live. And strive to be better. Because the life you've got, which I just said was a gift, it is a gift. To live it. I always wanted to be a commando ever since I was a little kid, and I heard that the SEALs were really tough and that the training was really tough, and so that's one of the major reasons why I picked the Navy and the SEAL teams. And then, once you get in, everyone makes a big deal out of buds, but it's in the SEAL teams, it's no big deal. Everyone goes through it. You get cold, you get wet, whatever. You do a bunch of push-ups and pull-ups and dips. But anyone that gets to the SEAL teams and does deployments overseas and has a real career, they're not talking about buds training. It just doesn't mean anything. I wasn't a great athlete. You got kids in there that ran college track or swam in college, and anybody that ran college track or college cross country is going to breeze through every run. Anybody that swam is going to have no problem with the swimming, but it finds people's weaknesses. And so I was like a gray man that was just in the middle of everything. I was in the middle of the pack on the runs, I was in the middle of the pack on the swims, I was in the middle of the pack on the obstacle courses. I was just in the middle of the pack. But when you had guys that excelled in some areas, some guys just were really good athletes and they excelled in everything. But some guys excelled in one area. They were incredible runners, but they couldn't swim and they wouldn't make it. I had guys, I don't know if I've ever said this on a podcast before, but I had a guy that was, a NCAA water polo team captain champion, and he quit. And I had a guy that was an Olympic alternate gymnast, and he quit. So those are two guys that are way better athletes than I would ever be, but they quit. And the same thing you find is when you get to the SEAL teams, just because someone's a good physical athlete, it doesn't mean that they're a good SEAL. Because being a good SEAL is a lot more than just being a good athlete. In fact, being a good athlete is like the baseline. And it's everything that you learn to do after that makes you a good SEAL. A guy that's a good leader, a guy that's tactically sound, a guy that makes good decisions, a guy that's good under pressure, a guy that doesn't ever give up on trying to accomplish a mission. So those are the things that make a good SEAL. Not just being able to run fast. You're constantly growing in the SEAL teams. Every time you go through a workup, which is our training cycle, you're getting better, you're getting more efficient, you're getting more confident with what you're doing. So you're always learning and growing, and I was always learning until the day I retired. Because it's not a boom, this happened and everything changes. It's a constant addition of skill set and repetition of situations where you become competent at your job. The fear of getting shot or killed is not on your mind when you're in the moment. It'll build up when you're waiting to go out. There's times you're waiting to go out and you're like, think to yourself, okay, there's a lot of bad things going on out there, and some of them have happened to me. But I think at some point you realize that there's nothing you can do about that. Other than just quit and just resign yourself to a life of cowardice. But if you opt to not do that, and you step up and say, okay, I'm ready. And if I die, I die. And once you overcome that, then nothing else to be afraid of. There's no one that wishes for peace more than people that have been to war. Because when the war drums sound, it's my friends that are going to fight. That's who's going to fight. It's my friends that are going to put their lives on the line. So when the war drums sound, the people that have been to war are the ones that actually say, let's think about this first. Like I said before, and like everyone says all the time, and they say it like it's no big deal, but war is hell. And when you take an 18-year-old kid and you're gonna go put him in a situation where he's gonna have to kill people and possibly get wounded or possibly get killed himself, that's a traumatic experience. And so before you do that, you should think about why you're doing it and understand if the people have the will to fight. And the will to fight, as I've said many times before, the will to fight is the will to kill and it's the will to die. And those are some pretty big wills that you need to have. Almost immediately, we're going to memorial services for Army guys, Marines that are killed, which was a rude awakening. So that's the welcome to Ramadi. The welcome to Ramadi is, you're going to go and pay your respects to some guys that were just killed. And there's firefights in the city. So we're just across the river from the city. There's firefights in the city all day. There's firefights in the city all night. We're on the rooftop of our building. You can sit there and watch tracer fire go back and forth. We're shot at from, across the riverbank. It was legit. It was legit combat. It was a legit bad scenario with sustained combat operations.
How do you lead your men through that when you know they're dealing with not only the funerals, which definitely take a psychological toll, but then even that just constant firefighting up there? I mean, do you have to switch up your gear and think, okay, I got to lead stronger, or maybe a little easier in certain scenarios? Are you changing?
Yes, you do have to modulate your leadership, and you have to do that if you're in the business world. You have to do that if you're leading any kind of team. You've got to modulate, and you've got to recognize when your guys need to be pushed and when your guys need to be not pushed and given a rest. So you're constantly doing that, regardless of what kind of team you're leading. And in combat, like I say all the time, it's amplified, because if you push your guys too hard in combat, they're gonna break. The biggest obstacle is their ego, right? That's the biggest obstacle is we don't want to take the blame for when things go wrong. We want to blame everyone else. And if your boss isn't giving you what you need, that's not your boss's fault, it's your fault. If your team isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing, that's not your team's fault, it's your fault. You're the one that's in charge of the team. You're in charge of them. If they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, it's your fault. And when you do take ownership of a situation, it starts to spread through the organization. If I say to my team, hey guys, this wasn't your fault, this was my fault, here's what we're gonna do to fix it, my team looks at me and says, you know what? We should have done a better job. They don't say, yeah, you're right, it's your fault. They don't do that. They say, we should have done a better job. I should have owned this. I should have stepped up. And now you start to have an organization where everyone on the team takes ownership, and that's a totally different, that is when you become unstoppable.
To that same young man that wants to be a SEAL, the guys that want to be like Jocko, what do you tell that 20-year-old that sees this thing and says, I want to go do that?
Well, first of all, don't try and be like me. Be better than me. Crush me. Make me look like a baby. That's what you do. And don't talk about it. Don't mull it over. Don't plan for it. Just get after it. Get after it. Make it happen. Use your force of will to make it happen. As a human being, the strongest thing you've got is your force of will. So take that force of will and make that happen.